Now for the good part, and that is the 10 points that Mark Levins presents as excuse me, a conservative manifesto. In taxation, I remember back in 1995, in January, when the new Congress was sworn in, and the Republican majority for the first time in decades, and standing with signs and chanting, "Newt, Newt, Newt." We all were so excited because we were going to be debating a flat tax or a national sales tax, but we never got that far. When Republicans were given leadership in the past, we didn't do well with that responsibility. You and I have got to stay engaged in this process so that our elected officials have the support they need to carry through with the commitments that they made during their campaigns. The environment, we've got to do everything we can to stop cap and tax. As I said, 400,000 more jobs will be lost in our state alone if cap and tax passes. On number 4, there are many different ideas. I'm not even saying I agree with these. I know that one book I've read would take away some of the purview of certain judicial review so that issues like the Bible, for example, would not be judged by judges on the bench. That is an idea that some have thrown out there. It is a responsibility, from what I understand, and Judge Mosley, you might be able to even expand upon that in Q&A. But the legislative branch can take away some of those things that can be considered by the judicial branch. It is my understanding of the Constitution. But one thing I know as far as judicial is concerned, let's, for goodness sake, not have any more Sotomayor. We cannot handle any more of those rabidly liberal judges on the bench. As far as the administrative state is concerned, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could sunset all independent federal agencies each year? Or in Texas, every 10 years we have a sunset law that excuse me, every bureaucracy has to prove up, or they can be done away with altogether. So they're either greatly reformed every decade, or they are eliminated if they are not useful. The 5th point on education, the last 3 times, the reason why I have been a delegate to the national conventions is because I've been on the National Platform Committee. Kelly Shackelford and I have really enjoyed doing that work together. Kelly, unfortunately, has all 3 times been on the Education Subcommittee. And every time they try to eliminate the Federal Department of Education, which was a perk given to the teachers' unions by Jimmy Carter. It's a bureaucracy that's only 30 years old. Ronald Reagan ran on getting rid of it. But every time we would mention it, or Kelly would mention it in his subcommittee, then we were not able to do anything about it because the candidates would say that it sounds like we're opposing public education, and nothing could be further from the truth. So anyway, that's why we haven't been able to do anything with that, but I would love to get rid of the Federal Department of Education. It is very much acting like a union and using your tax dollars in order to do lots of bad things in education. As far as immigration is concerned, yes, securing our borders. But I've talked with LeVar Smith, a congressman from the San Antonio area. He has some wonderful ideas on immigration reform. And while we talk about immigration reform, I want to be very cautious about using such a broad brush that anyone with a Hispanic surname all of a sudden begins to feel like they're not included as American citizens. We welcome American citizens whether your last name is Irish, or whether it's Italian, or whether it's Asian, or whether it's Hispanic. And we've got to make sure that we do not use such a broad brush that we vote out of office men who are so eminently qualified, like Victor Carrillo. I am so embarrassed over that vote. I cannot begin to even express how disappointed I am. That just because of a surname, a man would be voted out of office when he was so eminently qualified. Now, as far as entitlements are concerned, every time a presidential nominee stands up and says, we need to reform welfare, we need to reform Social Security, he's accused of what? Throwing throwing the elderly in the streets or other bad things. So what is going to happen is that the young people are going to have to understand they're being simply given a $50 trillion debt that they can never pay back. It's bankrupt. So what are you going to do about it? And when they start saying we want our own personal account that's going to be there when we get to retirement age, then we're going to be on the road to making a difference. But right now you've got, and it's going to have to be a transition. You've got so many people who are currently on the system, so many people are on the cusp of going into the system, but in the future, the young people can look ahead and say we're going to have a change in this and really reform it. Okay, good. The last 3 points. As far as foreign policy, we have got to ensure that we are going to continue to be the lone superpower. We don't get there by allowing China to hold more of our debt. We don't get there by not allowing our friends to buy things like submarines or F-16s from us. There are foreign policy things that are going on in this administration that are frightening, and it is hurting our allies around the globe. As far as faith, we are going to have to make sure that we have the courage to stand up and say that yes, our founders acknowledge that there's a creator who gave us rights that government cannot give or take away, and we are going to stand in line with our founders' thinking. There's nothing wrong with that. Furthermore, we are not interested in a theocracy. The United States of America is a constitutional republic, and we want to keep it that way. We don't want a theocracy. And so, those who are moving in who say that they want Sharia law, sorry. Not in this country. This is a constitutional republic. As far as the last point is on the Constitution. Wouldn't it be awesome if every public servant elected or appointed was sworn and held accountable to upholding the Constitution? Wouldn't that be awesome? I'd like to entertain any questions or comments that you all might have.
Could you say a little more about that you don't have the concerns about immigration? During the time that George Bush's last term, those of us who were avid supporters of him, both elections, but it was confusing and disappointing that those borders were not secured under his administration.
Right. Let me just tell you one little story. At the beginning of last August, I went to the North American Leaders Summit. The North American Leaders Summit is when the Canada, the United States, and Mexico presidents meet in order to discuss how we can merge our economic systems.
Not good.
That is not good, but that is what they have been meeting to do. So that was held in Guadalajara, Mexico, and I found out about it about a week before it was to happen and asked if I would go down and do a press conference and all this good stuff, which I did. But I called the White House, and being the late hour that it was, I asked for press accreditation because I had my press card, I had my letter of assignment, and I expected my pass. And they said, no, it's already too late. The person is in Guadalajara. And I said, well, give me your phone number. And so I called her. And she said, oh, I'm sorry, you're too late. And I said, I am coming with my press card and my letter of assignment, and I need credentials when I arrive, still just insisting that I'm going through the proper protocols. So then when I arrived, I walked all the way around the complex, could never enter in to the convention center where they were meeting. And furthermore, I went to the press accreditation office and I said, here's my press card and here's my letter of assignment. I need my press credentials. They said, oh, only the White House was giving those out. So when we're talking immigration here, I think what we really are looking at here is that we have heads of state who are meeting together in order to merge commerce between the three nations, and they don't want road